Good evening. My name is Jesse Rosenthal, and I am pleased to welcome all of you to the final countdown officiating on June 21st, 2023. Please be advised that we are recording tonight's presentation. And so our speakers tonight include the following. JT Alukonis from DC, Virginia, Vince Nardo from California South, Ray Moffat Jr. from Washington, Kevin Nicholson from West Virginia, and Jesse Rosenthal from DC, Virginia. I want to make sure that people understand that all participants are providing exclusively personal opinions. None of us are speaking on behalf of U.S. Soccer or for any state referee committee, and this discussion should not be considered training and any factor. That said, the topics that we're planning on discussing tonight include referee crew factors, crew positioning, environmental factors, team tactical awareness, tactical fouls awareness, and we're going to conclude with a Q&A. So to set up the discussion tonight, I want to make sure that we're clear. When we're talking about the final countdown, we're talking about the 85th minute, where there's approximately 5 minutes left in the game, either in stoppage time, etc., and everyone is scratching at and clawing at everything, trying desperately to equalize or to hold on to the lead if they've got one, or to have the go-ahead goal if that affects what they're doing. This is the contact information for everyone who will be speaking tonight. We are encouraging networking and making new friends among the mentors who are speaking this evening. And we'll flash this at the end, so do not worry about writing everything down right now, or if you need to, you can contact me later, and I will joyfully include you in that discussion. So with that said, we're going to start talking about with referee crew factors with JT Alukonis.
Glad you all could join for this presentation tonight, and thank you very much to Jesse for not only putting this on, but also for asking me to be a part of it as one of the panelists for this evening. So I've been asked to speak about factors of the referee crew as it comes to the last 5+ minutes of the game. We think about the time of the year that we're in right now. We are joining right now in late June, getting into the hottest months of the year, the summer months, and we really need to think about how these last 5 minutes of the game are going to affect us and what is going to affect us that we may not previously think about. So a big thing, especially afternoon games, games that are taking place when the sun is still out, when it's still hot and humid, dehydration. This is something that I like when I have a game coming up, to think about my hydration and my nutrition a couple of days in advance. If you're thinking about dehydration 4 to 6 hours before a game, you're already far too late. Things that dehydration can lead to, confusion and dizziness taking place during the game. And prime example, in a major tournament a year or two ago, a referee at the African Cup of Nations, he blew for full time before the game reached 90 minutes. And then once they restarted, they indicated there were going to be 4 minutes of stoppage time, and he ended the game after 2.5 minutes. So things like that can happen to referees on the biggest stages. They can happen to us as well. Dehydration, aside from the confusion and dizziness, can also lead to cramping and tight muscle groups, which is obviously going to make it difficult to meet the physical demands of what the game is asking of us. And it could lead to some irritability as well. It could lead to some players who are doing things that just hits us in a different way, and it makes us respond to it differently. So maybe we have a player that does something, says something, a coach that does something or says something, and it gets them a yellow card just because at that point in the game, we don't want to deal with it because of extenuating circumstances, but somebody could have done the exact same 80 minutes earlier in the game and they got away with it with nothing at all or just a talking to. So we want to make sure that we are being consistent and we're not letting the late point of the game dehydration play into the way that we are making our decisions. We've also got to think about sunburn and heat exhaustion. If we're thinking about it's a tournament, this is our second game of 4. Are we really prepared for that? Have we taken the necessary precautions to ensure that we are going to be able to make it through the rest of this game healthy and safe? And are we going to be able to make it through any other games that might have to come afterwards? All of this physical exhaustion, all of this potential for dehydration, heat issues can have an impact on the way that we officiate the game. Number one, thinking about the range of our positioning. A lot of times, especially late in the games, when we get to the corners of the field, if a team is winning, they might want to get the ball to the corner to run some time off the clock, earn a corner kick where they can run some time off the clock. There may be a lot of intense moments that are deep into the penalty area. So we'll see referees that are getting a little bit wider, getting a little bit further down the field than they have in previous parts of the game. We need to do that with some more urgency. So that is going to lead to some greater physical demands on what we are trying to do. As we're trying to get to those deeper or wider parts of the field, when we're in the rest of the field, are we still making sure that we are placing ourselves in proper places? Are we avoiding passing lanes? Are we in places where the players understand, they know that we are present, they can see us, and they have that thought in the back of their mind that, okay, if I try to do something against the laws of the game right now, the referee is or is not in a place to see me, to see what I'm going to do. Can I possibly get away with something? Or do I know as a player that they are right on top of me and they are going to be consistent and apply whatever they've been applying for the entirety of the game to this point? We do have to think of what our own physical abilities are going to be. And depending on the game that you're doing, if it's a game where we have each team can sub 5 times, each team can sub 7 times, and players cannot re-enter. If you get all 7 of those subs in the second half for each team, all 5 of those subs in the second half for each team, the speed of the game has not really dropped off as far as how they're playing. And if we have a game where teams are pressing to win the game, if we have a game where teams are pressing to get a goal to tie the game, the players are going to be moving at the same speeds, if not a little bit faster, because they're fresh, because they're rested, because they had the first 60 minutes of the game to watch, and all they have to do, they know that they just have to run their socks off and sprint for 30 minutes at the end. You've been working for 85 already. You need to meet that. So the referee crew, our physical output might be a little bit less. The players on the field, their physical output is going to be more. We have to be able to meet that. And with our assistant referees, can they maybe help us a little bit? Can they think about the way that they are managing substituted players and substituted player passes? Can we find some moments where we can maybe take our time a little bit more on a sub, give the referee crew an extra 10, 15, 20 seconds to rest so that we're able to have more of that burst for whatever is remaining in the last 5 minutes of the game. We've got to be conscious of the clock, depending on what our situations look like. Is it a possibility where this game is going to go to overtime, and how much might that overtime be? If we're talking about tournament games, it might just be 2 5-minute periods. If we're talking about some sort of youth regional, youth national championships, a lot of amateur stuff, are we possibly going to be going to 2 15-minute periods that are playing all the way through? Obviously, some of the younger youth age groups just going to be playing 10-minute periods there. Um, as we're thinking about people who might be refereeing youth and amateur games that aren't staying at the same place, or is your mind already in a place where you're thinking, okay, I've got one watch that has the time of the game on it, the other watch that has the clock on it, and I know that I've got a 25-minute drive to get to my game that starts 40 minutes from now. Is this all going to work? So this is something that could put some unnecessary stress on us. We've got to take some time to figure out what our stoppage time is going to be like and how we're going to communicate that to, number one, with the crew so that we're all on the same page for getting the right amount of time. And also how and when we're going to communicate that to the coaches, because communicating stoppage time should be done right at the 90th minute, and we should, as best we can, try to communicate that to both teams at the same time so that they're each able to have roughly equal time to figure out, okay, this is how much time we have left, this is how we're going to manage it, this is how we're going to approach this amount of time that we have left. There are things that we have to think about at the end of the game as far as knowing what the players have been up to, what the players have been doing, and maybe coaches have helped us out here a little bit. A lot of times we're going to have players on the field that have earned a yellow card already. It might not be going through their head when they're trying to grab a jersey to slow a guy down. I'm already on a yellow card. I can't do this. It might not go through their head when they are going down with little to no contact in or around the penalty area. I've already got a yellow card. I'm doing something that can put myself in danger of being sent off. This is something that we need to know as an officiating crew, so that if a player does something like that, we are dealing in a timely fashion with a second caution if we need to, and also making sure that we don't give a player a second caution without sending them off. That's part of where the heat and tiredness can play in. We've seen it happen in major leagues around the world as well as on the international stage, where a player gets a second yellow card and for one reason or another is not sent off. Players' behavior, especially in summer months where temperatures are high, tempers may run high in a game. When we get late in the game, we have a bigger opportunity for dissent or foul and abusive language. Does your threshold change for that as the game goes on? Should it? No. Does it? We've all been in those situations where maybe it does. And we try to understand what the context of the game is and what the context of what is happening is that may lead to that. We've also got to think not just about the players on the field, but the coaches. And if you're doing a game with just 3 officials, maybe we aren't able to manage the coaches and the technical staff as well as we'd like to. But their personalities can lead to behaviors, language, actions that are really weighing on us as a referee crew. So how are we going to manage those things in the final 5+ minutes of the game? We need to take halftime as a way where we can reduce some of these stresses, talk about how we're going to manage these stresses, and best prepare ourselves for what's going to come in not only the second half, but that last 5, 10, 15 minutes of the game, whatever it might be. At halftime, we need to make sure that we're not only hydrating ourselves with water, but there's got to be some electrolytes there as well. If you're in, me personally, if I get assignments from like October through April, especially evening games, I'm thinking like, this is great. I can run all day. You put me on a 2 p.m. game in the middle of July, I'm thinking for 4 days what I need to do to hydrate myself properly and be prepared for this. Halftime's a big part of that. Make sure we're getting something with electrolytes in it. I like to have something to eat as well at halftime. This is something where we're going to look for like the fast working carbohydrates, look for some sugar, look for something that your body can process quickly and your body's going to be able to use for energy in that second half of the game. Check with your referee crew to see what misconduct is like. Make sure everybody's on the same page. We have the numbers. If you don't have the time, if you don't have the reason for the misconduct, it's fine. Make sure you have the numbers. So if I'm an AR and I'm telling the referee, this guy needs to get a yellow card, I know that he's already on a yellow card. So I'm giving the referee the correct information that we're giving him a yellow card and we're sending him off as well. We want to think about accumulation of cautions. We want to think about persistent infringement as well. I've been on referee crews before where somebody commits their third, fourth foul of the game just before halftime. Just after halftime commits another foul. So we're at 4 or 5 fouls already, but it's not something we talked about. It's not something we really thought about. So he just got away with another one. She just got away with another one. And we're possibly going to let this player continue fouling when they should already have a yellow card, or at least be talked to and let them know, hey, we know what you're doing. You need to stop this behavior, or we're going to have to take action to change it for you. We want to check for what our thresholds are like for dissent and what we are going to tolerate. In an ideal world, dissent in the first minute, dissent in the 89th minute are exactly the same. But we all know that we don't officiate in an ideal world, and the temperature of a game changes. So what are we feeling as a referee crew already? What do we decide we want to accept? What do we decide that's the line, that's where we have to shut it down? And are there ways that we can shut that down? Are there ways that we can manage that without having to resort to cautions? Talking about the behavior of the coaches, a lot easier with a fourth official than if you're just on a 3-person referee crew. Obviously, a fourth official is right between the 2 benches. If you just got 3 officials, then AR1, they can hear both teams, but a lot of what they are going to be hearing and interacting with is going to be the coaches from the bench that is directly behind them. So we want to make sure that we are thinking about the behavior, the language, and potential volatility of both benches and not just the one in closest proximity to AR1. We want to use halftime as well to talk about the adjustments that we might need for match control. And one thing that I particularly like to do is think about what we are hearing from the coaches, particularly if coaches are telling you the same thing time and again. They're being consistent in what they think should be a foul or should not be a foul. As you get to higher levels, coaches know what they're talking about. If they think that something is being called a foul and it's soft, that might be something that we want to think about and make an adjustment there. If coaches think something is happening time and again and it's not being given as a foul, that might be something that we want to think about and we want to talk about, especially if it might be something that's coming from both sets of coaches. If it's something that the game wants, the teams want, the coaches and players want, maybe that's a way that we need to adjust what we are doing and adjust how we are going to approach certain situations.
Thanks, JT. So our next speaker to talk about crew positioning is supposed to be Ray Moffat. Ray apparently has been detained, so I am going to do my best to cover the content that he has raised. And if he's able to join us later, great. If not, we'll figure it out from there. So again, we're talking about crew positioning and what to keep in mind in the notional final countdown 85th minute. So where I want to start is talking about remembering our priorities. They should not have changed. The fundamental concern for the center referee is twofold: credibility and visibility. Are you able to see the nature of any sort of contact from wherever it is on your field, no matter what you've really been through for the first 84 minutes, but also being credible enough that in the decisions that you make as a referee or non-decisions, people can believe in because they see that you are invested in the position and that you have a good enough view that they can trust the judgment that you're making. It's not going to change just because it's the 85th minute, but primarily of heightened importance are player management and misconduct, particularly as we get into possible delays to the restart of play, other dissent, whether or not we need to, how we're going to handle restarts. Approximate AR, traditional responsibilities are not going to change. Second last opponent or the ball when it's close to the end line. But understand that we may see changes in the dynamic of where the play is being contested. And so criticality, not just for the offside, but also goal line decisions, coffin corner, shielding, and fouls are going to take on heightened importance because that's where the gravity of the field is going to shift, or may shift, I should say. In addition, because of the nature of the way that the player tactics are moving on, we may see more counterattacks that have a bigger likelihood of being successful than at other points in the game. The trail AR, same concept on the positioning. One second, please. Okay. The same concerns, namely that we're looking for on-field blind spots and the technical areas with substitutions driving additional attention. If we have a situation where a tie at the end of regulation or a tie at the end of stoppage may result in kicks from the mark, the players may be signaling frantically to get on the field so that they can be eligible for kicks from the mark. And also, we want to keep an eye out for injured or fallen players. Fourth official, if they're available, is going to be in position, hopefully in around the midfield area. And the technical areas and the substitutions are also going to take on heightened requirements for awareness. And, there's going to be some odd things that could possibly happen. The picture that you see on the slide in front of you is a situation where the goalkeeper is the one in yellow, is temporarily off the field for a clearance effort. And his reaction to being temporarily off the field is to grab a backup ball to throw it on the field in order to delay the restart with a throw-in. And so having awareness of the secondary balls and, who's got a priority for restarts takes on heightened importance. And I apologize. They seem to be having some issues with my slides tonight. And then also look out for frustration sources because everyone's going to be in heightened levels of agitation. And this is the concept that I originally was planning on addressing, which is environmental factors. As we get toward the end of the game, the visibility issues take on a heightened likelihood of being issues. The sunset, you're going to have the difficulty being able to differentiate where the play is because of the position of the sun. As you see in the picture below, if you've got snow on the field, that may obscure some of the lines. If you've got a situation where there's air quality deterioration because of area traffic that's contributing to smog or pollution, or the question of program park lights, all of that comes into play. And less for the professional match, but in many of the amateur and youth matches that we see, the next game becomes more likelihood to be an issue for that, could be a problem. You've got players for the next game that are warming up along the touch lines. Possibly they've decided to try to steal one of the alternative match balls. if they're warming up with a ball despite your best efforts, that may be another source of problem. And, you know, you have a situation sometimes with ball kids where, you know, let's say it's the home team winning, they may not be as diligent about returning the balls to the teams that are supposed to have it. Spectators becoming more of an issue. We will talk about that in greater detail. Or if you have a field marshal, suddenly they've disappeared and you have one less tool for managing any sort of spectator or field behavior problem. And so we're going to turn the slideshow now over to Kevin Nicholson to talk about field and tactical situations. And I apologize, I really don't know why my computer is misbehaving at the moment.
Zoom does not like you, Jesse.
Well, yeah, okay, that's true, but it's only unhelpful.
While you're doing that, I'll address what Alex brought up in the chat, which was a really funny story that just got posted on another forum today. There's an instance of a Moroccan or Nigerian kid that was actively throwing extra balls into the field of play towards the end of the match. So things do happen even in a professional match, and this was an AFCON qualifying match. Now, what people didn't understand in that situation was the term sent off. The referee cannot send off the ball person. He can make them leave or have field security make them leave, but if he is not a rostered person or team official, he cannot actually be sent off. But yeah, I mean, if that situation could arise and you as the referee may have to deal with that. I'll wing it a little bit, Jesse, because I've got the slides up on my other computer. So Pierluigi Colonna, there's a quote from him that said, "We want to avoid matches lasting less than 45 minutes of effective time. So the time of substitutions, penalties, celebrations, medical treatment, and of course VAR will have to be compensated." Now at our local matches, we probably don't run into this much. But if you're on a higher level match, which we all should aspire to be on, the new directive from FIFA is that all effective minutes be played in the match. For those of us that watched the World Cup this past fall, that's funny to say fall, you saw 10, 11 minutes of stoppage times added to some games. And that is all at the directive of FIFA, that we should make every effort to play all minutes of the game. So what do the two different teams want when they get to the 85th minute? Well, the winning team obviously wants the game to be over. They want to have possession. They want to limit their goal scoring opportunities because they're not going to go forward as much because they're trying to protect a lead. So a thought in your mind as a referee is, does a free kick improve mindset? Could be, can we still close the losing team's mindset? Can we still close the gap? Should we take more risk going forward and counterattack? Can we seek retribution without consequence if the outcome is unchangeable? Basically, get revenge. Is the referee biased against this already? Avoid unnecessary risk of injury, blame, division, falling apart. So a couple things there. You know, it can change their attitudes towards you as the referee. You know, if they feel that they've been aggrieved throughout the game and it's starting to get to the death of the game, are they going to increase their level of dissent against you? You know, are they blaming each other? Are they falling apart? You could run into dissent situations that is against a teammate, which you absolutely have to deal with, just as you would deal with dissent against you or another person in your referee crew. So another situation, blowout scores. You know, switch to a bunker defense or a counterattack. You know, if a team's down by 4 or 5 goals, are they going to, you know, switch to a bunker defense, try not to allow any more? Are they going to look to counterattack more? What are they going to do? Bandwagon scoring. Oh, well, so-and-so's got a Hattie. I got to get a Hattie too now. So, what are they going to do if that happens? In the bench players who want to prove they deserve more playing time. How many times have we seen a player go in the last 3 minutes of a game that the team has already won? What are they going to do? Are they going to go out there and try to prove something, go in hard on a challenge, or work hard to score a goal to try to prove to the coach they need to be in more? It's just something to be aware about. Vengeance for taunting and showboating, injuries to a captain, getting even. The team that's down 6-0. Are they, it's not uncommon. I've seen it before, especially in adult amateur. A team would be losing by 6 and all of a sudden they 2-foot tackle the captain on the other team for no apparent reason. It's just a getting even type situation. Dissent by foul, creating, a foul that doesn't need to be created in order to dissent against the game and the referee crew. And the look at me, Ma, the Karen spectators that don't make anything easy because they're either goading their own team or goading the winning team or just generally creating problems for you as a crew that you're going to have to address. So indicators of desperation by a losing team is, once again, the dissent by foul. Low percentage passing completion, low percentage shot attempts. They're just hacking and whacking at everything they can get close to the goal because they're trying to create a goal scoring opportunity that you wouldn't necessarily see in the run of play. So what are some of the team tactics in a late possession battle? We've all been around this game enough. We've all seen these situations. We're going to talk about more how do we deal with those situations. So team tactics in late possession battle. Coffin corner. Attacker takes the ball in the corner to waste time on the field, either to hold possession or draw a foul from the defensive team for a free kick. Allowing free kick placement, demand for distance enforcement from defensive players, stopping the counterattack release from attacking third of the field, and injuries. Once again, injuries in quotes. Suddenly they pull a hammy when they've been fine for 90 minutes and they just were walking, not running. Just something you need to be aware of. Things that a team who is trying to maintain the league will possibly do. They're going to keep away possession to force the trailing team to chase, committing fouls in order to gain a restart. So coffin corner, that's one we really need to talk about because I've seen a lot of bad things happen because the team in the lead, remember that, we're talking about the team that is in the lead, takes the ball to the coffin corner to try to just take time off the clock. Where does the referee need to be? From my own experience and teaching from other referees, proximity is the most important thing for a coffin corner situation. You're not as worried about a quick counterattack. You're not as worried about a long ball being played out. It is more important that you be within sight and sound of that challenge to help diffuse situations before they occur. I am very vocal in this situation. Off his back, watch his back. You can't go through the player. I'm right here, guys. Just little things that you can verbally say that, hey, I'm right here. I'm watching everything that is happening. Things to be mindful of, watch for grabs, shirt grabs, and things like that. Because it usually starts out with just a swimming against each other, which is perfectly fine until someone gets frustrated and grabs a jersey. Now you've got a foul immediately, because if you let that continue, you're going to be in a world of hurt as a referee, because when it's two players battling, it's one thing. When it's six, it's a completely different thing as a referee. So while you are doing that in the coffin corner, it's coffin corner for a reason. Your back is likely somewhat turned to the rest of the field. So who's watching the rest of the field? Hopefully you've covered this in pregame, and your fourth official, who has no other duties at that point other than getting screamed at by both benches, knows that you need him to watch, especially if you have comms. I know comms is a sensitive subject we won't get into, but at this level of a game that we're talking about, if you've got comms, I'm on the comms saying, fourth, you got me, you got me, you got my back. Or Trail, hey, Trail, do you got my back? Trail, do you got my back? To my ARs. making sure that someone else is watching the rest of the field as you're diverting a lot of your attention to a potentially difficult situation around the corner flag. Make sure you understand which team is winning so you know what behavior to expect from which team. How many potential fouls do you see? Once again, in this one, the very big red flag to me is the grab of the jersey, because that inflames the situation. I don't care what the score is. You will lose control of games quicker by letting grabs and tugs and pulls go than probably anything else, that any other type of foul or misconduct you're going to deal with. That's just from doing a lot of mostly D1, D2 college men's games, which we know those are always fun as they are. But those are the things that annoy players. So, Jesse, if you want to go next slide, you put together some of this, so I'll let you talk through it.
Right. Thanks very much, Kevin. And we're going to keep tagging back and forth until you get sick of both of us. In the diagram that we have on screen, Black's got the ball on the left wing. Hopefully everybody sees that, and you should see the arrow where they're heading to the corner. What is Black trying to do? They're trying to run down the clock. And while they're doing that, they're also trying to retain possession, because that allows them to position themselves to either draw a foul for the red defenders to further deplete the clock. They draw the foul. Okay, well, I need the distance before I can have the restart. Oh, well, maybe I want to change the kickers. Maybe I want to waste more time with placing the ball on a blade of grass. The interesting part about this, though, is that when they're going into the corner, it widens the gap between the red defenders and the red midfielders, right? Because the red right D is going to engage with the ball going to the corner. And that increases the pass vulnerability and decreasing the odds for the long ball. That also forces the center back or the sweeper to also shift to the right, either joining in the coffin pressure or to just cover behind where the right D is shifting. And that further creates more space, because then the Black player in the middle, who doesn't really necessarily care about a goal scoring opportunity, is going to go try and support his teammate or her teammate running in the corner. And what does that do? It creates open space. So all these players are moving. That increases the space for low percentage passes that Black can either easily intercept or are higher to complete, which makes the red players want and need to chase the ball more. And then this one is the Brazilian player mostly dead or all dead? Because she's been dispossessed. This is Women's World Cup, United States versus Brazil. We have a center referee in exquisite position. She's in position to see the challenge coming now that yellow's been dispossessed. And also she's got a quick glance over her shoulder to see exactly how dead the Brazilian attacker from the coffin corner is experiencing.
And then she gets on her horse and flies down the field, because we know where that counterattack is going.
Right. Okay. Corner kicks. Kevin, this is yours.
All right. Short corner option. You will see this a lot in areas where they are trying to kill the clock, rather than take a normal corner, which a lot of times they'll win a corner out of those situations where they camp out at the corner flag. What's more tactically advantageous, to take a normal corner, which might lead to a quick counter, or take a short corner where they can retain possession, because the defenders cannot be inside that 10-yard hash on a corner kick until the ball is played. So automatically they bought themselves 4 or 5 seconds if nothing else happens, because they can possess the ball, they can stand on it, they can go right back to the corner flag and go back to doing what they were doing before. Their objective is to run down the clock and gain possession. Once again, this will widen the gaps between the blue defenders and the connecting midfielders. Red, who's protecting their lead, is not committing any players to attack the corner kick. And geometric draw limits the number of red players who can pressure the ball without risking further space exposure. So all that is telling you is they're not likely to run down. Yeah, Vince, that is a reverse diagonal on this slide. The red players are not going to go in there with any amount of players to support that, because they're not looking to win anything out of it. So they're not going to be putting players into that situation and attacking the goal line. And just because of where they are time and space, it does limit the amount of players who can pressure the ball without risking further space exposure.
So this is a different strategy, which is more the keep away and chase. So in this situation, and I understand that the previous slide was red in the attack. Well, right now black is back on the attack, and they're the ones who are winning. They're trying to run down the clock. They're trying to hold the possession. And the interesting part about this is while they're red really needs the possession so that they can restart the attack, red is going to move off of a soft guard and try to directly pressure the ball, as we see from the right wing mid or right D. And then that draws, again, the the defender who's left to then shift. And then you can see the field tilt. And that, of course, means that there's more space that's been created in the middle. And as a referee crew, you need to recognize that's happening. I should note, just because of the point that Vince just made, the CTR position in all this is 100% notional. It's not prescriptive, which means that may be the right position the center is taking in order to have visibility and credibility. But there's an infinite number of good combinations for the center. It's just a hangout for the moment. But again, if black is playing keep away with it, that's going to force red to chase. And if they can't get the ball, then maybe they'll foul so that way they can force a restart that will increase their odds of getting the ball back. And at the end of the game, they might not care about conceding a foul because, well, what's the difference? They're still they're still losing. They're still trying to scrap and get back into the match.
All right, I want everybody just to look at this slide. We've got a smaller group, so if you want to unmute and talk a little bit and controlled here, who do we think is winning this game right now? Blue or orange?
Hold up, Kevin. Everybody sees that blue 4 has possession. Thank you.
So from this slide, who do we think is winning the game at this moment? Blue 4 is in possession.
Orange.
Why do you think orange is winning the game?
They're shoved up high, way higher than they should be if they're losing. Well, if they're well, wait, hold on, no, hold on. I retract that. They're shoved up really up high. They're trying to force it in. Actually, I'm gonna go blue. I'm changing my mind. I'm going blue. Because if orange is winning, their backline should not be that high because they're wanting to play defensively and have that space to stall the game out. So actually, yeah, I'm switching. I'm going blue because they're playing that orange line so far up. They want to try to force it down. I'm going blue.
I have a view that's counter to that.
I'm going blue. I changed my mind.
Yeah, I mean, I think it really depends on team tactics, right? So blue could be in a position to where, like much like the US plays, right? If we are winning, we do a high or a very compressed style as a defensive team. So this could have been a quick turnover and they haven't had time to spread the field. And they're really not that interested in spreading the field yet until they get a little bit more of producing space. And then they're gonna, find a corner to waste time. Or this could be that orange is desperate and they are high pressing and they really need this goal. However, if that was the case, I would expect number one, the goalkeeper in orange to be pressing up a little bit more in a desperate attempt to support the defense to change that gap. So I don't think that you can tell. And I think it really depends on the team's tactics for the entire 85th minute you've been watching.
How many
That's
defenders does
excellent.
blue have right now?
11.
Touche. You have essentially 2 center backs. You're playing two deep, 4 in the midfield, 4 up top, essentially, for blue. They're clearly trying to push the ball forward on the situation. Orange is playing with 4 in the back and 2 holding mids. So they're playing with basically 6 in the back. So I would state in this case, blue is desperately trying to get a goal.
Yep.
I would
Because
agree 100% with you, Vince.
And that's why I'm supposed to trust my gut. not
So-
fuck myself out of it.
Outside of
but
that,
I want to say I also agree with Shannon's thought process, because if the game started this way, where Orange just needed to hold on anyways, this may not have been a change in procedure or tactical. So I think it's very important. She makes a great point in the fact that you need to be aware when teams change their formations, especially early. If a coach really sees that they're getting beat someplace and they go from a 4-4-2 to a 4-3-3, you have to understand, you as a referee, what does that mean? You as an AR, what does that mean? And you have to recognize that. And if you have the comm systems, you need to, if your ARs are the fourth, let them know that there's made a change, because that will change not only the style of play, but where they're going to play.
well, and I'll tell you quite frequently, one that I see is teams that start out in a 3-5-2, and then all of a sudden when they're up, that 3-5-2 now becomes a 5-3-2. You know, what are the wing backs doing? What do you have? And that's just an example, but the same thing if they're going from a 4-4-2 to a 4-3-3. You know, how does that change? As referees, we have to be students of the game, guys. We've got to understand tactics. We've got to understand what different tactical formations do and how they put pressure on you as a crew and how you have to operate differently. If we look at this diagram right here, where are 20 of the players on the field? They're all within about a 40-yard box, correct? As they're laid out right now. Where's your lane to run as a referee? Where's your ability to stay out of the passing lanes at this point? And blue is counter-attacking quickly.
Go shake hands with your fourth official.
That's the 100% the correct answer. This is a very densely packed space. So what are you likely to do no matter what you do? You're likely to be in the way at some point. So how do we get out of the way? This is more of a general topic. How do we get out of the way? Width is your friend, as Vince just said colloquially. Go shake hands with your fourth. Get out of the way. Get towards the touchline. If it's a quick turnaround, hide behind a defender. Because where are they less likely to go? Right at the defender. So just some situations here to be mindful of. I mean, the whole topic of this is understand who's trying to win, who's trying to lose, and understand how you need to adjust in that last 5 minutes. So I think this is a good teaching slide because you can teach a lot of different things out of this example right here. But I think everybody made good points and everybody's thinking along the correct lines. But yeah, as Shannon said, they could have been playing this way the whole game too. So all these things go into your decision as a crew and the things that you do to properly officiate the rest of the match. Like tactical foul awareness with Vince Nardo is going to cover from my Cal South brother.
One of the things I'd like to make you guys realize that what Kevin just told you as a referee, that you have to be a coach and understand tactical awareness, but coaches still don't know the laws of the game. So it's unfair that they're not referees, but we still have to be good enough to be a coach. So we talk about tactical fouls and tactical foul awareness. This is not so much regarding about SPA or stopping a promising attack, but more how do teams take risks in that last 5 minutes? And why would they take these risks and so forth. So we talk about the player and coach risk reward calculation. They assume different formulas at times of desperation. Desperation, we know teams down by 1 or they're up by 1, but they need to score 2 to move on. They're going to throw the kitchen sink at the goal. And if they're going to throw the kitchen sink at the goal, that changes what can happen afterwards. Are they playing to get to regulation? Are they playing to find out how much stoppage time. Is there extra time? Are we going to kicks from the mark? I know that Jesse had mentioned earlier, if you're in a situation where a game goes to kicks from the mark, don't mess yourself up. Give the teams an opportunity. Find a way to get the ball out of bounds before you kill it, to give them an opportunity to get their players on for the kicks if they want to make that change. Let them know at halftime or at the end of the regulation if you're playing extra time. Look, only the 11 that finish can take the kicks. I'll try to give you time, but it's on you. Remind them so you're not having to have that argument later where you didn't give me a chance. Be preventative if you can. Goal differential impacts advancement in a tournament or promotion, relegation in league play. This is important when it comes to you as a referee, and I'm going to use one of our old colleagues, Herb Silva. Nothing good happens in stoppage time. And if you have a game that's 5 or 6-0, chances are you don't need to play much stoppage time. Unless the result matters for something else. In my example, I'm going to give a story about one of my games. Actually, it's the only game I've ever been assaulted on, and had a team that was really good. It was a cup final, a home and home final. And I had given 2 red cards already to one team. And I given the third one when the player assaulted me. And the coach from the winning team, they were up like 2-0 at the time, about 35, 40 minutes in. The coach from the winning team's like, "Hey, Vince, hey, if you just want to kill this, we just end the game right now." And my response to the coach was, "This is aggregate scoring. You got 11 on 8 right now. Go put 5 more on them." That's something that you have to be aware of. The aggregate scoring between the 2 games mattered. So if the team was willing to do that, yes, I could have easily suspended the match and moved on. But it was a situation where I could have killed it at 90 minutes. I could have killed it at, right at the button. But with all of the delays that we talked about here in the last 5 minutes, the team that's losing bad, they're trying to stall in every way they can just to get out of there. Give them that full time, and they put on 7 goals, won 7-0, and they won so big that they didn't even show up for the second half. Second leg was a forfeit. Know what the results mean. Kevin made a big point about that. Know if you're on that 3rd day of a tournament or on that 2nd day to who's going to go to the final round, know what they need to do to win. Know who's on what. I like the last bullet point here. Players who earned cautions earlier no longer walking on eggshells. We now know that there's stories in Champions League and at the World Cup where in that 2nd game, players are looking to get that 2nd caution because they've already advanced and that 3rd game doesn't mean anything and they want to have that reset. So they'll try to find some way to do something stupid to get that quick caution. So now they get suspended for that 3rd game, and then they're clean when it comes to the knockout stage. So be aware of the gamesmanship. I can't stress that enough when it comes to all this stuff we talk in the last 5 minutes. What's going to happen if you pay attention in the first 15. You'll know when somebody does something stupid, he kicks the ball away. You'll see the reaction from the other team. If they react big in the 15th minute, they're going to act real big when it's in the 85th minute. So pay attention to those little things early. They may not bother you as a referee. You might say, "I don't care if they kick the ball away. I don't care if they do this." It doesn't matter what you think about it. Watch how the other team reacts to it. That's what you're going to have to manage later when the temperature gets hotter. That's when you're going to need your experience to use. Go ahead, next slide. On the field methods to drain the clock. We always talk about things. We've seen this in every game. Time wasting by goalkeepers. I'm going to come back to this in a second. Excessive substitutions, changes to players for restarts, throw-ins, free kicks, corner kicks, injuries. I know we've now touched on this 3 or 4 times now. Hiding the ball, kicking the ball away for throw-ins, free kicks, goal kicks, after goals, ball positions. We've all seen this. I'm going to add my bullets, my tools that I use, or stuff for you to think about. Use them as you want to. Time wasting by goalkeepers. Don't ever, unless absolutely necessary, stop the game when the goalkeeper has possession to give the card for time wasting. And I mean this, sometimes you have no choice. If you have the ability where a goalkeeper is stalling, it's in his hands too long. He's, whatever, he doesn't want to put the ball back in play. Do everything that you can to get that ball back in play the first time. Give the card on the goal kick. Give the card on the free kick inside the penalty area when he's taking his time stalling there. Why? The restart's the same. The last thing you want to do is give that free kick by that goalkeeper. Yes, he may have earned it, but you're just asking for a headache to yourself if you want to stop the play, give an indirect free kick on the 6 going in. Good luck in the 88th minute. Another thing, first time it happens, yell at the keeper, tell him to go. Walk by the captain, let him know, hey, he's walking a thin line, tell him to speed it up. Or, I don't want to give that free kick on the 6. Tell him to hurry up. Use the other players to your advantage on that. Try to avoid putting yourself in a situation that's going to be more difficult to manage. Not just giving the card and stopping the game and giving an indirect free kick going in from the 6th. Now you got to find a way how to manage a wall 6 yards out. That's just going to be another nightmare for you. Excessive substitutions. This is why I like the professional game so much better. There's a limit on substitutions. If you have a game that's unlimited substitutions, this is why it's important that you follow the proper procedures for the entire match. That way, when you do get to the point at the end of the game and they want to take their time, if they're not ready, it's not time to sub. If they're not at midfield, it's not time to sub. If they are taking their time off the field, let everybody know you're going to add the time. Make it known early. Changes to players for restart. First time, I'm chewing them out. Guy picks up the ball, walks away. Guy picks up the ball, walks away. However, if a team has a player that can throw the ball a mile and he's on the other side of the field and he's done it for the first 80 minutes, they're not wasting time if he does it at the 85th minute. If he's done it for the whole match, he's going there to do it. They want that long throw-in, let him have that long throw-in. That's not a wasting time unless the guy walks the 70 yards to get over there. So understand, they're going to complain about it. Acknowledge that you're aware of it. Acknowledge the team and let them know. The next one on injuries. I'm not a doctor. I worked in physical therapy. It was my major. I know enough to get myself in trouble. I don't care if you act like you're hurt. I'm not going to tell you you're not hurt and you're faking it. I'm not that person. I'm not going to take that risk. However, we do have an ability to know that if we think somebody is faking it or if somebody's really hurt, to immediately call the trainer to come on and make them leave the field. My tool. Guy goes down, like the situation, the guy's walking, not running. All of a sudden, oh my God, I pulled a hammy, hits the ground. Hit the whistle, stop the play. And I don't even go check on him. I'm immediately calling the trainer on. He's leaving the field. And I'll tell him when I walk there, you're going to go down, you're going to leave the field. Last 5 minutes, you're going to go down, you're going to leave the field. I may or may not wait a few extra seconds before I beckon him on. We'll see if they want to play the game a little bit longer, but that's my trick. I don't want to give a card for something who's faking an injury because he may be really hurt. He may have had a prior injury. I don't want to take that risk. So again, if you think that they're using it, you have tools in your box that don't require a card, go have them call the trainer on, have them get off the field. Hiding the ball, kicking the ball away. We see this a lot, like we said, from the ball kids that we talked about earlier. I've seen it happen a lot more recently at the higher level by coaches. Coaches, the ball comes out, they catch the ball, they kind of play a little keep away, or they throw it over the guy's head, or they throw it up in the air. not even remotely okay. Was it Mourinho that did it recently?
Yep.
They tossed
Yep.
him real quick. What?
Yep. Yeah,
And
it
they
was
tossed him
Mourinho.
immediately, which I think is the correct decision. I had it happen in one of my USL Championship games. LA Galaxy 2 coach caught the ball, and then he threw it under the bench where he couldn't get it, and we had a full mass confrontation, which is not fun. Ball position restarts. This is important. The closer you get to goal, manage that. Get there, tell them where it's at, get them away, put the ball down. This is where your presence, your authority and your presence that you've earned for the first 80 minutes, this is where it really takes a point. You hit the whistle, you get to the spot, you say it's right here. Start telling everybody before they put the ball down, get away, get away, get away. If it's close, make it ceremonial. Don't end up like the Open Cup game at Galaxy. Make it ceremonial, move it on, and let them have the ball back in play. As another Herb Silva-ism, when the ball's dead, the referee's dead. Get the ball in play. So the sooner you can get that ball down and get him moving, the better. Okay, next slide. So I know we're talking about the 85th minute and in, but I think that this first question applies for 90 plus minutes. People are paperweight, or attackers are paperweights, or paper plates, I should say, inside the penalty area. For the most part, they're always looking for whatever advantage they can get. And I can say that as an attacker. So I'm just ripping on myself there. In the last 5 minutes, especially if the kitchen sink's being thrown and you have 18, 20s, heck, sometimes 22 players in the penalty area, if they're bringing the goalkeeper up for a corner kick, there's going to be a lot of contact. All 3 of you on the crew, if not 4 of you, need to be focused somewhere. The trail AR cannot be off in La La Land watching a corner kick with 22 people in the penalty area. They have to be watching. Referee needs to be a little bit tighter, needs to be closer. They need to be vocal, like Kevin said, mention good words to use. I'm here. I see it. I'm here. Don't, whatever you have to do to let them know that that they can feel and hear your presence so they don't do something stupid. The second part here, has the coach demanded the tactical foul to disrupt an attack? As an AR specialist, you don't know how many times I've been standing at midfield as the trail AR, and the coach has stepped up to the line and told his defender or holding midfielder, look, if he gets by, you just bring him down, take the card. Don't let them by. Or any plethora of other tactical advice. Pay attention to that as an AR. Pay attention to what the coaches are teaching, because then that'll know what adjustments you might have to make. If you have the comm systems, use that to relay the information. But you will get a lot of information just standing at midfield and paying attention to what's happening behind you or what they're saying. You'll hear all sorts of good information that you can get from the coaching staff. And like, even important, like Kevin said, at the higher levels, these coaches know what they're talking about. They may not have the right verbiage. They may not have the right, they may be wrong on the premise, but they know when they see something that's not right. And if they continue to say the same things, there might be some truth to it that you have to pay attention to, or at least to address. The sweep the leg escalation. This can happen at the end of a game if it's a blowout and the team's just frustrated. Or this could happen, like you said, if a guy takes out the captain for apparently no reason. Again, these games get heated when a team knows that they're not going to advance anymore. I know that we see this in like high school and college playoffs where, it's their last game. They might be a senior and they're in the playoffs and they're done. They may go out and try to kill somebody because they figure there's no repercussion. Being aware of that, being preventative by being close, by talking, by using your voice and your positioning is vitally important to stop those things from happening. If the losing team playing a high defender line or sending a goalkeeper into the opposing penalty area, and if so, does that change dog-so thinking? Definitely changes dog-so, definitely changes stopping a promising attack, definitely changes tactical fouls. The whole concept of that. And you as an AR trail have to be aware that if they have that quick counterattack and that referee is trying to manage, 18 people in the box, it might be on you. You might have to be the one to make that decision. You need to be thinking immediately, okay, if a foul happens right now, what do I have? If a foul happens right now, what do I have? And constantly taking those snapshots on, do I have two people back? Do I have a goal scoring opportunity? Is it obvious? The guy's 50 yards away, but there's nobody else there. These are questions that you have to answer yourself. And if they're, they obviously changes when there's nobody behind them. Mass confrontations, as we talked about the last minute on blowouts, making sure that if you feel it getting chippy, making sure that you're letting your team know. Make sure that you're letting your fourth official know. If you have a fourth official and they get into that short corner, that coffin corner that's on the referee side, the non-AR side, that's on the fourth official, have that fourth official drop down a little bit. Have them come down 5 or 10 yards. At least stand in front of the opposing bench so he doesn't allow that bench to get carried away. Be aware of where your next decision is going to be. Famous words by Kim Overbay. Think about where your next decision is going to be, what's going to happen, what's the worst thing that can happen, and what's the best position I can be to stop that from happening. If it does have a mass confrontation at the end of the game, 2 people, referee could possibly step in between. More than 2 people, get out, triangle control, take numbers. Last one to the car buys beers. And then obviously short corners. I like the idea of just being really close into that short corner, being the closer the better. Again, the verbiage just being close, which leads to the long ball. I call it the oh poop moment, when you're in that short corner and all of a sudden the ball gets cleared out and you're on your horse. It's the 90th minute. You're gassed. You need to go. This is where your ARs have to either read for you and know that, hey, my referee's out of position, I need to cover, or he's close enough that we might be able to share information, or he's close enough to make a decision. And that's something that the trail AR should be paying attention the whole game. Can I help out now? If something happens and it's a counter, I got help. Any questions? As I realize I've been on mute for the last 20 minutes.
No, we hear you.
So what we have up here in this slide and the next is just additional reading. There's an article from Pro, more information about dehydration from the Mayo Clinic. U.S. Soccer has the Recognize to Recover for Heat guidelines that I think is instructive because it also recognizes where we are with water breaks. If you're interested in learning more about a detailed technical look at time wasting, we've got some great resources out there and some tactical resources that I have found, and I'm putting that out in case people aren't already USSF A licensed coaches and you want to get more about team tactical adjustments. I certainly don't have all the answers, but obviously Kevin and Vince and Ray and JT do. So with that said, we will turn the floor open to Q&A, and I'm going to leave out the contact information from everyone who had a hand in this presentation tonight. And we'll answer anything you've got, so long as you've got a question to ask.
Hey, one question this is Chuck Roberts. I'm a regional referee here in Northern Virginia. One question that I have is at higher levels, you might have sort of a mapped out plan for what happens if your center referee or assistant referee gets injured in the 85th minute and can't continue in the center. are on the line, but how do you think through that or prepare for that at sort of the lower level games where there's 3, maybe 4 of you on a crew?
It's supposed to be written in the rules of competition on who's supposed to take over. I know some of the leagues require the senior AR to take over. Some say the most senior referee. More than likely, it's the 4th official. I have covered twice as an AR for a referee, and I've come off 1 game as an AR due to injury. I think that it's important, and I don't know, Chuck, if you're more AR driven or referee driven to find out. I think it's hugely important for somebody who is an AR focused referee. Don't get pigeonholed where you're only doing ARs. You need to be able to do the game, and this is a fault of mine. I'm the first person that's guilty of this. It's the one thing I would probably change after 36 years. You have to be able to understand what they're going through. So if you do have to step in, you have that knowledge and that feeling that it's okay, no matter what level that you're at. That's why you have people like Frank Anderson and Ian Anderson and Corey Rockwell who do middles for the college seasons, because that's their chance to get that other side of it. I do think it's also important for referees who are primarily referees to understand the complexities of Law 11, to understand where they need to have those opportunities to assist the AR when they know that the AR only has one aspect of the decision to make. And that only comes with game count. So as far as how to do that in the game, at no point when a referee goes down hurt is it the decision made and transfer is done in 30 seconds. Typically the referee is going to come off. They're going to try to get some treatment. They're going to be able to have a discussion with the trainer. At that point, you guys should already know at that point who's going in.
Yeah, honestly, I'll not step on you, Vince.
Okay.
And honestly, Chuck, I think I get where you're coming from as far as, local matches where we may not have a full 4-man crew or things like that. Or even if we do, if it's not written in the rules of competition, the referee should be covering that in a pregame. You guys should be discussing the situation.
That's where I was going. Yeah.
Yeah, I figured that's where you were headed. Ben.
Yeah, that was my point. Is I know that I get to the game and one of the last things I say, look, if I fall down and die, it's your game. That's kind of me to make it at least a little bit lighter. I say that again, 36 years, I've had 2 referees have a heart attack on me as an AR. So again, as an AR, keep a whistle in your pocket. Be able to stop the game.
Yeah,
Always.
I always have a whistle in my back pocket, even on the
always.
Whether it's mask on, whether it's whatever has to happen, it's there. That doesn't mean you pull it out and call a foul for the referee because you didn't think he saw it, but always have a whistle.
Yeah.
I'm going to add one point from my perspective. Please do not take active match play as the time to pull a phone out of your pocket to call the assigner and say, well, who's in charge now?
Just do it on your watch.
I mean, I'll give you guys a real colloquial story here real quick because I know that we don't want to go forever. But in our state cup this year, we ended up with a 6.5-hour rain delay. Well, of a 4-person crew, when this game kicked off at noon, there was only one referee that was able to stay the entire time because 2 of the other 4 had to leave to go to work. So my conversation was to my SRA, what do we do now? And his official statement was, it's not written into the rules of competition. So myself as the assigner had to make that decision. So things do happen. Have a plan, have an idea. But I will tell you, during that entire rain delay, I was finding other referees. We were talking about situations, and we were prepared when they finally said at 8:30 to go play. We knew what was going to happen. So as Vince was saying, that decision is not made in a 30-second time span usually.
Yeah, I know that when I went down, I was fortunate when I went down hurt, it was 90 seconds before halftime. I hobbled for the 90 seconds, then we made the change at halftime. The time that I came out as a referee, the referee pulled a calf. And went down like a ton of bricks. But by the time that they treated him, that gave me time to get to midfield, get to my bag. I actually changed shoes for that. And then, the last thing that I did was I got his book and I compared it with my book to make sure that we had the same numbers, we had the same information, same people carded. And then, anything that the guy wants to tell you beforehand, I had a word with this person or this person, and then the hardest part for you is try to keep the game the same as it was as far as the foul selection, which may not be where you were originally comfortable with.
I think that covers it, Vince.
Any other questions we've got tonight?
If you guys have anything offline, feel free to email any of us.
Okay. Couple of housekeeping items. One is I want to apologize for the technical problems, but I appreciate everybody sticking around. I want to thank everyone who contributed to the Zoom tonight, as well as joined us to join the discussion. Specifically, these are the best referees in the United States.